It's if you're not playing this game with friends, it's not fun. And I don't think that makes a good game then.
A game that's not for everyone
isn't a game that should be made, in my opinion.
You're going to have to, if you really like the game, grind out certain things. And I just don't think Helldivers 2 has anything worth grinding out for.
What? What the fuck?
So I actually want to just point this out here. I have never, ever gotten these super samples.
This video is under review by the Ministry of Truth. Any interference from this review will be viewed as treason.
Hello friends and welcome newcomers. My name is Netherless and today the trees are speaking binary. What does that mean? I don't know, but all you need to know is that we're talking about Helldivers 2 today, the most democratic game in existence, and since I am a representative of the Ministry of Truth, I have been assigned to cover a video that is slanderous to not only our fellow Helldivers, but perhaps slanderous to our properous home of Super Earth. Now, the person behind this video is That PlayStation Gamer, and the title of this video is Helldivers 2 is Dead. Now, I don't know about you, but I'd say Helldivers 2 is still doing pretty well. It still averages around 30,000 people concurrently, despite the recent controversies that this game has been through, so we're gonna go ahead and take a look at this guy's absolutely wonderful take on Helldivers 2. Let's get to it, shall we?
What's up, gamers? Today we're going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to have some B-roll footage here playing in front of you guys.
You should have just edited that out, my guy.
While I sit here and talk about the current state of Helldivers 2, and man, oh man, this game is not going to make a kind of comeback, guys. If I'm being 100% honest with you guys, I think Helldivers 2 is done.
No it isn't. Helldivers 2 still averages around 30,000 people playing the game on Steam, which is not dead in the slightest. The player base is still very much active, so I don't know where this notion that the game is dead is coming from, nor do I think it ever really needed a quote-unquote comeback. The game is doing fine, but you know what? I'll hear him out. I'll let this guy cook. Why is Helldivers 2 dead?
And the reason I say this is because this game I've been recently trying to play, and it's just not fun anymore. And I don't know if honestly I even think it was that fun to begin with.
Whoa, hang on there, buddy. That is an inherently subjective statement. Just because you never thought playing Helldivers 2 was fun doesn't mean the game is dying. That's your opinion on how the game plays. And it has nothing to do with any sort of decline that the game may have. The biggest decline Helldivers 2 had was the PSN account controversy, and even then, the game still had a lot of players at that time frame. So no, just because you don't think the game is fun anymore doesn't mean the game is dead or dying.
I think this is one of those games that got a lot of hype because a lot of people were jumping on the bandwagon. They were jumping on this is a great game to play with friends and, just have a crazy good time with them. But at the end of the day, I think this is a game that, to put it best, it had its time in the sun and now it's fading off.
Yeah, Helldivers 2 had a pretty massive popularity spike. The same kind of popularity spike that you'd say a game like Lethal Company had, but this isn't a game that had a player base die a few weeks later. People still play this game because it is objectively one of the best designed co-op games out there. The game's time in the sun hasn't set, the game still has its time to shine.
And like I said, I personally wasn't a big fan of this game.
So your reasoning behind the game being dead is due to bias. You don't think the game is fun, and you never thought the game was fun. Therefore, you thought the game was dying. That is such an absurd conclusion to come to. Like, it's ironic that a PlayStation fanboy would make this argument against a PlayStation game. Like, are Sony fanboys just committing seppuku now? Helldivers 2 is probably one of the best games that Sony is involved in, and yet the game is dying because this guy didn't like it? Come on, you've reached the bottom of the barrel of discussions here.
Because I think the problem with Helldivers 2 is it's so shallow when it comes to anything outside of immediate fun with friends.
No, not really. You can play this game by yourself if you really want to, and you can play the game with random people in lobbies. You don't have to play this game exclusively with friends. People do solo runs on the highest difficulty, which by itself is pretty impressive. If you've developed enough skill to play this game by yourself on any difficulty, that's a pretty good way to get into the fun zone of the game. That's not shallow like you claim it is.
And like, I think that's the big problem I have with this game. Just at the end of the day, it's if you're not playing this game with friends, it's not fun. And I don't think that makes a good game then.
What in the quantum TV is this take? A game that's more fun with friends doesn't make it a good game? That is just factually incorrect. If anything, if a game has the option that you can play with your friends with, that automatically enhances the experience. Also, once again, in regards to the game not being fun without friends, that is subjective. People can have fun playing Helldivers 2 by themselves or with random people.
Because, like, here's the thing. Any game can be fun with friends. But the problem is, eventually, you're going to have to start playing this game by yourself.
That isn't really a problem like you're making it out to be. Sure, maybe people will struggle if they do play the game by themselves, but that's kinda natural. People can still have fun playing this game by themselves. It is possible. Plus, like I mentioned earlier, if you don't like playing this game by yourself, join a lobby with random people.
You're going to have to, if you really like the game, grind out certain things. And I just don't think Helldivers 2 has anything worth grinding out for.
That is also factually incorrect. Helldivers 2 has a lot that you can grind for, such as all of the different battle passes, the upgrades for your destroyer, and the whole plethora of different stratagems that you can get. The battle passes by themselves have a lot that you can unlock, such as boosters, weapons, armor, emotes, and much more. It's not that the game doesn't have anything to grind for, it's more so you don't want to grind for them.
I think at most, maybe your cosmetics, like you're seeing on screen here, are good. They look okay, but that's it. That's all they do. They just look okay.
Once again, factually incorrect. The torso pieces for armor customization do provide different bonuses to your character. For example, in my B-roll, I have the medic armor, which allows me to carry more stim packs to heal myself or others with. Some armors allow you to have a chance to prevent death, have resistance towards explosion damage, and many other buffs you can think of.
And yeah, you get some more of the extra stuff here. So I actually want to just point this out here. I have never, ever gotten these super samples. I have never, ever gotten these super samples.
Gee, I wonder why you couldn't find any super samples, buddy. Perhaps we'll find out later in the video, so just keep this in mind, everybody.
I've played this game. I remember actually doing this specifically on... I did like 2 runs, 2 mission storylines, or you're supposed to do like 3 missions, and you're supposed to gather all the resource materials. Not a single fucking one popped up.
I'm very curious as to what difficulty you're playing on then, because if you've done 2 entire circuits and haven't come across any super samples, then you most likely are not playing on the right difficulty. The lowest difficulty that you can play on in order to get super samples is on the suicide mission difficulty, which is difficulty level 7. Now that that's been addressed, I'm very curious to see if he'll show us what difficulty he's been playing on.
Not a single one. And it's because the funny thing is with a game like this, if you're not communicating with other players, they will fuck you over. They will fuck you over in the worst way possible.
And that is why the game has the option for the host of the lobby to kick players. If somebody is team killing or not doing anything productive in your game, you are able to kick them. I have done this a lot of times when people were repeatedly team killing me in my games. It's not rocket science, the game has a lot of countermeasures for problems like this.
There was a point where me and a couple of the guys were playing, a couple guys by me and a couple of randos, we're playing and we're sitting there, like we're trying to, look around to get the stuff because we're looking for those super samples. We're kind of like at that point where you're like, okay, you've basically done the main mission and now you're just exploring, trying to do the extra stuff. But then some asshole calls in, the Pelican to come in and, pick us up. And it's like, well, fuck, now we have to go there.
Again, that is why you have the option to kick players. Plus, if the extraction zone has no Helldivers nearby, then the extraction will be called off and you'll be able to continue the mission as you please. It also depends on the mission timer, as the game does have a timer on every mission, and when that timer gets low, that's when you want to go to extraction, as it will disable reinforcements and all of your stratagems. But I digress. If people are ruining your run, kick them from the game.
We're trying not to go there. And I remember texting this and putting this in the chat because I didn't feel like I had my microphone on, saying, do not call Pelican. We are looking for super samples. And then some random person comes in, it's like, oh, let's start doing this. And it's like, oh my God. It's just, this is one of the things I hate about this game. Is that those super samples don't pop up enough. They very rarely do, and they are so scattered. And look what you need. You need 5 of these things. You need 5. And that's not even considering the rest of these. Like, the rest of these will also need more.
You have 0 super samples, my guy. You can't say that they rarely appear in a game when you have 0. Either you haven't found them, or you have. The reason you haven't found any super samples is because you're not playing on the right difficulty. And look, I'ma be real here. Suicide mission difficulty is not that hard, all things considered. Anybody can go through a level 7 mission easily if they dedicate enough time into this game. If you become skilled enough, you are able to gain a lot more super samples.
I basically, this is some dated footage for the record, but I basically have all this stuff that doesn't require super samples unlocked. And the game still is like, no, super samples don't spawn enough. And I've been playing against the same enemies. I'm going to skip around.
Mission failed. We'll get them next time.
Bruh, of course you're not gonna get any super samples. You're playing on fucking medium difficulty, which is super easy. Start playing on higher difficulties from now on. That way, you can actually gather some super samples for once and actually upgrade your ship.
For a long time. Like, I have been fighting these bugs for so long. It's gotten boring. It's gotten repetitive. You guys are seeing me play solo right here, right now. And man, I'm telling you, it's not fun.
Dude, this is such an under the mayo moment. You are playing on medium difficulty. There is a lot of content that you're missing out on because you play on such lower difficulties. Newer enemies are on higher difficulties. The super samples that you crave are on higher difficulties. And you'd get a lot more XP and bonuses for playing on higher difficulties. The game to you is repetitive because you are actively making it repetitive. This is actually very disingenuous because you are using this to claim that the game is dead or dying.
This game at first was fun because you have friends to play with.
Wait, but I thought you said the game was never fun to you. You should probably do me a favor and
keep that same energy.
But now because the player base has dropped off so much, you can't really find really random people. I mean, you can find random people, but they're like either super over leveled compared to you, or they're just checked out.
You do know that the levels in Helldivers don't actually mean anything, right? Up until level 25, levels don't really matter all that much, except every 5 levels you get a new title that you can give your character, which not everybody uses. Levels in Helldivers is just a display for how long you've played the game for. It's not like when you encounter a guy at level 100, they're just a completely overpowered god within the game. They will have the same vulnerable stats as any Helldiver.
And I feel like that's the lot of the player base right now. A lot of the player base is just checked out. We do not care about this game anymore. This game has been dropped. People are playing other live service games, other multiplayer games that just have more life to them.
Care to provide some examples? As far as people are concerned, there's a lot of life in Helldivers 2, but you wouldn't know that since you've only stuck to playing on the lower difficulties.
This game has been in the same state since it first came out. I cannot believe we live in a world where this game is still in a very rough fucking state.
How is it in a rough state? The most I can say in terms of Helldivers having problems is its optimization, but that's about it. The game is still pretty good and enjoyable, and people are still playing it. Nobody's dropping the game like you're claiming. The player base is still pretty healthy.
And for some reason, I hear people say shit like, this should be a Game of the Year contender. How is Helldivers 2 a Game of the Year contender?
It's one of the best co-op experiences. The battle passes are easily accessible and have no deadline, and you can get them just by playing the game. The weapon sandbox is pretty vast and is only being expanded upon with the Escalation of Freedom update, as well as any brand new battle passes they like to drop. The game rewards you vastly for exploring. There's a multitude of different enemies that all have their different weaknesses. The stratagems are fun to use, and one of the coolest things about it is the fact that it's probably one of the best live service games out there. The game has an ongoing story going on in the background, and it is carried by major orders that all players have to try and complete together. And there's always a unique challenge to be faced in any game, as the game is being changed constantly by the game master. So, with all of that in mind, how is it not a Game of the Year contender? Oh, right, you got bored of playing it. Womp womp, my bad. This game sucks, guys. Better pack your bags. That PlayStation gamer said the game is boring. Therefore, it is boring and dead. Seriously, this video sucks. Why did you think this was a good video to upload?
Like, I don't know how it's a Game of the Year contender. It's a good game. Don't get me wrong. There's things about this game I like. The problem is, this game did not satisfy that live service itch I have.
Literally how? Are you just ignorant of what makes it a good live service? Did playing on medium difficulty really make you this dumb? Helldivers 2 is literally the prime example of live service done right in recent years. This comes off as very contrarian. Also, gotta love the backtracking that you said there's things about the game that you liked, but earlier in the video you stated that the game was never fun to you. Once again, I'm gonna have to ask you to
Keep that same energy.
It didn't. And honestly, I feel like, and this probably might get me in some trouble here, but hey, fuck it. I'm just going to play this B-roll I have gathered up. But much as people might give me shit about this, I think a game like Concord here just has more, I guess you say, what I'm looking for.
Dude, are you trying to sound retarded? No way you are comparing Concord, a watered down, clunky, and terrible Overwatch clone that has a lackluster live service, to fucking Helldivers. Not only are you comparing a piece of shit to a diamond, you are comparing two completely different games for one another. You're bringing up Concord as something that has a quote-unquote better live service, but as far as I know, I don't see a battle pass going on, there's no store, and the roadmap does not look promising in the slightest. Concord is a game that has been collectively shit on because of how bad it is. And you dare compare this game to Helldivers? There's no way this guy is a real human being, bruh. There's just no way.
And listen, at the end of the day, I 100% admit this is a ripoff to an extent of Overwatch. But here's the thing about Concord that makes it interesting. The thing that keeps me interested in this game is these characters, for one. I like the chemistry these characters have with each other.
Okay, what does this have to do with live service and video games? I'll tell you what it has to do with. Nothing. This point is completely irrelevant to the conversation. Oh, and since you want to insist on calling this game interesting, it's for people who want to fight white systemic racism through gaming. As per lead design John Wisniewski's statement, the sentiment being expressed is that whites must acknowledge their privileged position and then actively work for equality. It will be hard and confronting work, but if we don't, we're complicit, and complicity allows systemic racism to persist. You think this game is interesting? Nah, bruh, you're crazy.
Much as people make fun of the guy's name, Starchild, I think it's a hell of a lot better than generic Soldier 265 killing fucking termites and automatons, because, that's so creative.
This still has absolutely nothing to do with live service, and you somehow miss the point of the Helldivers and what they are. They are humanity's bastion against the automatons and terminids, not termites like you said in your stupid video. Terminids, and they will happily sacrifice themselves in the name of Super Earth. It's like that one quote from the Warhammer series that's like, "Only in death does duty end." I honestly couldn't give less of a fuck about the characters in Concord, as they all look incredibly generic and give off a current day MCU vibe with how they pull off their chemistry. I think I'll happily stick with Helldivers.
Like, I'd rather play this than Helldivers 2. And the fact is, the developers have gone as far as said that the Battle Pass, basically everything that traditional live service games charge for, are going to be free with this game.
First of all, Concord has no Battle Pass. Secondly, the Battle Passes in Helldivers 2 are technically also free. You just need to earn currency in-game to unlock them, which is not that hard to do. I also need to keep hammering it in that these are two completely different games. There's no reason that Concord and Helldivers should be compared.
The only thing they're going to charge you for, outside of the game itself, is after it comes out, is cosmetic stuff. And they say that will not affect gameplay whatsoever.
Which is also a big factor on why these two games should not be compared. Concord is doing a lot of cosmetics for a PvP hero shooter. Helldivers is not a hero shooter. It is a PvE co-op game, and its battle passes not only have cosmetics, but entirely new weapons and boosters that will completely change the game as you unlock them. What the fuck is this comparison? I'm probably gonna just skip over the Concord fanboyism and actually get to whatever points he makes about Helldivers.
You have our word on that. I'm more interested in this than Helldivers 2. And Helldivers 2 is out. And I think it's because the promise of this actually being a live service game, them constantly giving us, new content, new potential stories to go off on. And I'm sorry, man, I don't get how anyone could prefer a Helldivers 2 over Concord. Because at least with Concord, there's that potential there. Helldivers 2 is stuck in its way. It's stuck. That's it. That's what it's going to be for the rest of its existence. Until they shut down the servers, it's going to be a good game with friends, but a boring game by yourself.
Once again, that is subjective. Just because you find it boring to play the game by yourself, that does not apply to everybody else. You're just completely ignorant to the rest of the content in the game because you've stuck with playing on lower difficulties, and because you actively made it repetitive, you are blaming the game for being boring when you are just missing out on the rest of it. On top of this, your whole tirade about how Concord is somehow a better live service game than Helldivers is just complete and utter bullshit. I don't even know if I even want to respond to the rest of this video, but I guess we're just gonna have to dig deeper to see what else he says.
And to me, that's what kills multiplayer games the fastest. It's when you have to have friends in order to get a good experience.
No, that is not the reason why multiplayer games can die so fast. A multiplayer game can die fast if it is horribly made, not because it's better with friends. Seriously, what is this logic? If a game is better to play with friends, that would arguably maintain the player base even more, especially if the gameplay is good.
To me, a good game stands on its own 2 feet. It doesn't stand on its own 2 feet with friends. And like I said, yes, I get, some people don't like these characters. They think they're cringe. Oh, the robot's asexual or whatever. Who the fuck cares at this point? I'm being honest here. When I say I do not care about the character's sexuality, and not in the sense of like, oh, I don't care because it's super woke.
Yeah, I'm done with this video. This is just an irrelevant tangent, and I pretty much don't care what he says after this. I mean, this video is just so bad. Seriously, I don't even know why this comparison exists. It's actually brain-meltingly bad. PlayStation fanboys are an entirely different breed of moronic, man. But with that out of the way, that is gonna do it for this response to that PlayStation gamer. I hope you all enjoyed my response, and if you did, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And until then, see you later, friends.